When the bride is a widow and the groom is a widower, when the former has lived in our great little town for hardly 2 years, and the latter for hardly a month, when Monsieur wants to get the whole damn thing over with as quickly as possible, and Madame gives in with a tolerant smile, then, my reader, the wedding is generally a quiet affair. The bride may dispense of a tiara of orange blossom securing her fingertip veil, nor does she carry a white orchid in a prayer book. The bride's little daughter might have added to the ceremonies uniting H&H a touch of vivid vermeil, but I know I would not dare be too tender with cornered Lolita yet, and therefore agreed it was not worth while tearing the child away from her beloved Camp Q. My soi-disant, passionate and lonely Charlotte was in everyday life matter-of-fact and gregarious. Moreover, I discovered that although she could not control her heart or her cries, she was a woman of principle. Immediately after she had become more or less my mistress, despite the stimulants, her nervous, eager chéri, a heroic chéri, had some initial trouble, for which, however, he amply compensated her by a fantastic display of old-world endearments. Good Charlotte interviewed me about my relations with God. I could have answered that on that score my mind was open. I said instead, paying my tribute to a pious platitude, that I believed in a cosmic spirit. Looking down at her fingernail, she also asked me, had I not in my family a certain strange strain? I countered by inquiring whether she would still want to marry me if my father's maternal grandfather had been, say, a Turk. She said it did not matter a bit, but that if she ever found out I did not believe in our Christian God, she would commit suicide. She said it so solemnly that it gave me the creeps. It was then I knew she was a woman of principle. Oh, she was very genteel. She said excuse me whenever a slight burp interrupted her flowing speech, called an envelope an envelope, and when talking to her lady friends referred to me as Mr. Humbert. I thought it would please her if I entered the community trailing some glamour after me. On the day of our wedding, a little interview with me appeared in the society column of the Ramsdale Journal, with a photograph of Charlotte, one eyebrow up, and a misprint in her name, Hazer. Despite this contretemps, the publicity warmed the porcelain cockles of her heart and made my rattle shake with awful glee. By engaging in church work as well as by getting to know the better mothers of Lowe's schoolmates, Charlotte, in the course of 20 months or so, had managed to become, if not a prominent, at least an acceptable citizen. But never before had she come under that thrilling rubrique. And it was I who put her there, Mr. Edgar H. Humbert. I threw in the Edgar just for the heck of it. Writer and explorer. McCoo's brother, when taking it down, asked me what I had written. Whatever I told him came out as several books on Peacock, Rainbow, and other poets. It was also noted that Charlotte and I had known each other for several years, and that I was a distant relation of her first husband. I hinted I had had an affair with her 13 years ago, but that was not mentioned in print. To Charlotte, I said that society columns should contain a shimmer of errors. Let us go on with this curious tale. When called upon to enjoy my promotion from lodger to lover, did I experience only bitterness and distaste? No. Mr. Humbert confesses to a certain titillation of his vanity, to some faint tenderness, even to a pattern of remorse daintily running along the steel of his conspiratorial dagger. Never had I thought that the rather ridiculous though rather handsome Mrs. Hayes, with her blind faith in the wisdom of her church and book club, her mannerisms of elocution, her harsh, cold, contemptuous attitude towards an adorable, downy-armed child of 12, could turn into such a touching, helpless creature as soon as I laid my hands upon her, which happened on the threshold of Lolita's room, whither she tremulously backed, repeating, "No, no, please, no." The transformation improved her looks. Her smile, that had been such a contrived thing, thenceforth became the radiance of utter adoration, a radiance having something soft and moist about it, in which, with wonder, I recognized a resemblance to the lovely, inane, lost look that Lowe had when gloating over a new kind of concoction at the soda fountain, or mutely admiring my expensive, always tailor-fresh clothes. Deeply fascinated, I would watch Charlotte while she swapped parental woes with some other lady, and made that national grimace of feminine resignation, eyes rolling up, mouth drooping sideways, which, in an infantile form, I had seen Lowe making herself. We had highballs before turning in, and with their help I would manage to evoke the child while caressing the mother. This was the white stomach within which my nymphette had been a little curved fish in 1934. This carefully dyed hair, so sterile to my sense of smell and touch, acquired at certain lamplit moments in the poster bed the tinge, if not the texture, of Lolita's curls. I kept telling myself as I wielded my brand-new, large-as-life wife that biologically this was the nearest I could get to Lolita, that at Lolita's age Lotta had been as desirable a schoolgirl as her daughter was, and as Lolita's daughter would be some day. I had my wife unearthed from under a collection of shoes. Mr. Hayes had a passion for them, it appears, a 30-year-old album, so that I might see how Lotta had looked as a child. And even though the light was wrong and the dresses graceless, I was able to make out a dim first version of Lolita's outline. Legs, cheekbones, bob nose. Lottalita, Lolitchin. So I tom-peeped across the hedges of years into wan little windows. And when, by means of pitifully ardent, naively lascivious caresses, she of the noble nipple and massive thigh prepared me for the performance of my nightly duty, it was still a nymphette scent that in despair I tried to pick up as I bayed through the undergrowth of dark, decaying forests.